Amun-Ra, Amun-Day. It speaks of the night. Imatipin sumpike sitsue yatue yatue yatue.
Egyptian pharaoh King Tut is probably most famous for his infamous curse that guards his treasure. Anyone who disturbs the rest of the king will die. Upon opening the tomb back in 1925, his curse quickly took the lives of many, and archaeologists discovered some pretty terrifying things. From a man mysteriously dying from blood poisoning to King Tut's missing heart. Let's talk about these and more only in today's video. Top 10 true scary stories about Tut's treasure. Starting off this countdown, we have George Herbert. The scariest story about King Tut and his treasure would have to be the one that involves a man named George Herbert. George was the man that financed the excavation of King Tut's tomb, led by Howard Carter. If it wasn't for him, they wouldn't have had the finances to do this. Maybe that's why he was the first man that died as a result of Tut's curse. Several weeks after the opening of the tomb, he accidentally cut open a mosquito bite that was on his cheek. He cut it open while shaving. It ended up getting infected and he died of blood poisoning shortly after. What a freaky coincidence if you ask me. Story also goes that when George died, all the lights in his house mysteriously went out. Creepy. In our 9th spot, we have King Tut's body. And if you guys are liking this video so far, then make sure to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Probably one of the greatest treasures in King Tut's tomb was King Tut himself. He was buried in a coffin, placed inside another coffin, placed inside another coffin. In total, there were about 8 coffins. The legend goes that anyone that handles King Tut's body or his artifacts, they're gonna get cursed. After Tut's body was found, he was sent to a radiologist to get x-rayed. The radiologist's name was Sir Archibald Douglas Reed. The next day, after conducting the x-ray, Reed fell mysteriously sick. He died 3 days later. His death is blamed on King Tut's curse. I mean, come on, what are the odds? His sickness came out of nowhere. What caused it if it's not the curse? In our 8th spot, we have the weird findings. Of course, King Tut's tomb is filled with an abundance of treasure. In total, it apparently contained 5,398 artifacts. But there were also a couple of scary and weird items found in the tomb. For starters, there were over 100 baskets with barley, figs, grapes, melons, etc. Now, the dead were often buried with food so that they would have an abundance with them in the afterlife. But also, it was for their journey if they got hungry along the way. There were also tons of glasses of wine in there. I wonder if anyone took a sip after all those years. Spoiler alert, there was no curse. Those men died because they all dared each other to take a sip of that ancient wine. Just kidding. On the more disturbing note, there was a jar that held his mummified stomach. Yum. And there were also 145 loincloths. That man must have liked feeling secure down there. Seriously, who needs that many? Also, apparently they were super well made compared to other loincloths they found. So, only the finest for King Tut's Tut. In our 7th spot, we have the secret burial chamber. It's believed that there's more to be discovered in King Tut's tomb. Some researchers believe that his tomb contains access to a hidden chamber with possibly more buried treasure. The idea was first proposed by Nicholas Reeves, a British Egyptologist. He thought maybe the tomb had a hidden chamber for Queen Nefertiti, and the location of Nefertiti's tomb has been a mystery for quite some time now. In 2015, a radar scan showed that there were 2 empty areas behind some painted murals in King Tut's tomb. These murals depicted burial rituals, so they for sure thought that something was behind it. Then sadly in 2018, a team of archaeologists found evidence that showed this wasn't the case and that there was no chamber behind the tomb. Everyone was disappointed. But ladies and gentlemen, they did not give up. And now after several more tests, they believe there is something on the other side of the north wall of the burial chamber. How exciting. But if it is Nefertiti's tomb, people believe that it will be heavily guarded or booby-trapped. I mean, they hid it away for a reason. They didn't want anyone finding it. Moving on, at number 6, we have the chariot. One really cool artifact found in King Tut's tomb was a chariot. Now, what makes this significant is that it's theorized that the chariot might have been King Tut's cause of death, which has been debated on for years. No one really knows how he died. But King Tut was found with a fractured lower leg, shattered pelvis, and ribs. A new analysis shows that he was crushed on one side of his body while likely on his knees. So some believe that he fell from his chariot in a horrific accident and died. If this is the case and that's the cause of King Tut's death, then that thing is most certainly cursed. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with Hugh Evelyn White. Here's another very creepy story. Hugh Evelyn White was a British archaeologist that helped excavate the site. Sadly, the curse got to him as well. 24 of the excavators ended up dying. Evelyn was scared that this was because of the curse and thought that he was next. As a result, he hung himself. He was found with a message written in his own blood. The message read, "I have succumbed to a curse which forces me to disappear." Poor dude. In our 4th spot, we have James Henry Breasted. Okay, this next story is pretty wild, so just prepare yourself. So James Henry Breasted was a famous Egyptologist and archaeologist that worked alongside Howard Carter. Now apparently when they opened the tomb, they said it looked like it had been robbed and some items were missing. In particular, King Tut's cobra staff. But a lot of people think that this was just a cover-up, and Breasted and the other team members took a couple of artifacts for themselves. And guess what? Here's where it gets freaky. When Breasted returned home, he found that his pet canary was eaten by a cobra, and the cobra was still occupying the cage. Cobra staff goes missing, and a cobra is found in his home. Coincidence? Seems a little fishy, not gonna lie. On top of that, the cobra is a symbol of the Egyptian monarchy. Also, kings had it on their headdresses to represent protection. So this has led people to believe that this is a symbol of how the king strikes his enemies, and that King Tut's curse is coming for him and his team. In our 3rd spot, we have the burial mask. Now, it's called the burial mask because it's a mask that they place on someone when they're getting buried. It's also sometimes called the death mask, which sounds so much scarier. Anyways, these masks were made to resemble the person that it was placed on. It was done so that the spirits could recognize the body after death and help them get to the underworld. Not only that, but at the back of the mask, there was a protective spell inscribed into it. The spell was to protect Tut's limbs as he travels to the underworld. But Tut's beard on the mask was accidentally snapped off, and then they glued it back on. This was believed to anger King Tut, because not only did they remove a protective mask from his body, but they also broke it too. So apparently he's coming for these people involved in that, if he hasn't gotten to them already. In our 2nd spot, we have the missing heart. So let's get straight to the point with this one. King Tut's heart is missing. The Egyptians did place some of his organs inside canopic jars, but the heart was important to them. They believed that the heart was required for someone to get to the afterlife, so it was always left in place. If it was accidentally removed, it was always put back in and immediately sewn shut. But King Tut's heart is missing. Now, there are a couple of theories that could explain why this is. Number 1, maybe his undertakers were careless. Number 2, it may be that King Tut died far away from home. By the time he was set to be preserved, his heart may have already decayed. Or number 3, some sicko stole his heart. Who really knows? It's just pretty creepy if you really think about it. And in our number 1 spot, we have the mysterious fires. Here we have more victims of King Tut's curse. First up is Aaron Ember. Aaron was friends with many of the men that went into King Tut's tomb. In 1926, his house mysteriously caught on fire and burned down. He perished alongside it. Now, he would have made it out successfully, but his wife told him to save the manuscript that he had been working on. The manuscript was called the Egyptian Book of the Dead. Another pretty freaky coincidence. Anyways, he's not the only one whose house was burned down mysteriously. Let's move on to Sir Bruce Ingham. He was gifted a paperweight from Howard Carter, the archaeologist who discovered King Tut's tomb. But the paperweight was a mummified hand wearing a bracelet. The bracelet had this carved into it, and I quote, "Cursed be he who moves the body." Don't know why Howard thought that was a good gift, but whatever. After receiving the gift, Bruce's house burned down to the ground. He then tried to rebuild it, but it was destroyed in a flood. Could these stories be a result of King Tut's curse? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And now, speaking of comments, let's move on to our comment shoutout portion. I'll be shouting out comments from the video Top 10 Games Scarier Than a Ouija Board Part 2. Leo commented, when I was younger, we always did stupid things, like the most popular one was Bloody Mary and never worked. You're lucky that it never worked, okay? I did it too and I'm stupid. Thank God it never worked. Don't summon anything, okay? Just don't. Just don't. It's not worth it. It's Gamer Chris Oof commented, I love you, Lindsay. Make a list, top 10 scary hotels. I don't know if we've done that one. We probably have. We've done so many videos that it's like, yeah, we've probably done that one. But if we haven't, I like that list. Number 1, the Cecil Hotel. If you know, then you know. Anthony Taylor Network commented, I love the ghost paper challenge and I really want to try it, LOL. Guys, I do these videos to warn you against it and you're like, oh, that one seems fun, let me do it. Please don't do it. Don't communicate with ghosts. You're gonna get possessed and I'm not coming to your rescue. Sorry, not sorry. All right, guys, that's all the comments I'm showing out for today's video. Make sure to comment something down below for a chance to be featured in my next comment shout out. And as always, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to Most Amazing Top 10 for more amazing videos. I've been your host, Lindsay Ivan, and I'll see you when I see ya.